I'm here, obviously.
Carl Dickens,
Carl,
here.
those of you that are on Zoom.
Michael Witherspoon here.
Thank you.
Angela Wasuna here.
Okay, we do have a quorum, so we can proceed with the agenda. There are 3 minutes that we need to approve. And if there's no objection, I would like to start with the April 10th minutes. And so a motion to approve those minutes is in order.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Carl. Is there a second, please?
I second.
Okay, thank you. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes as presented?
I will abstain because I missed that meeting, I believe.
Okay, thank you. So hearing none, we will vote to approve these minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, so the next one is April 15th. A motion to approve those minutes as presented.
So move.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a question on a couple of comments, actually. Under section 4, there's a sentence that says the idea is that they would not have any departments in the charter except for the ones that operate the government. So that doesn't, I don't remember that discussion, or I'm not sure what that means, if anybody.
Is that, was I quoted as saying that?
No, yes.
Yeah. So what I meant by that is not those that operate the government, those that are the operational departments. And what I mean by operational departments are things like purchasing, finance, personnel, those three types of departments. Now you also have tax department and all that kind of stuff, but that's under finance. But those are the 3 drivers of government. The others are service that provide service to the public, but those types of departments are the ones that I think really have to be mentioned specifically in the charter. Not with detail, but at least specifically in the charter.
I think that clarifies it, and I would hope that we would accept that. And on the next page, it said that this was in relationship to salaries or money for common council members. It said that Pat Sabersha asked if they could add a clause establishing a $600 expense allowance per person. And I do not believe I did say any amount. I just said, could that be done? And I am clear that I would not have said $600. So I'd like that corrected. And then further down, it says the bond issue is about to be resolved. Most communities do not bond, but rather prosecute. Can we, oh, we can't show the minutes apparently, right?
Let me see. Where's this in the minutes? What?
This is under 4, discussion and actions items, Article 4 and 5, the Common Council and Mayor, but it's the last sentence in that section, which is on the next page.
The bond issue is about
To be resolved, but most communities do not bond, but rather.
yeah, that's totally wrong.
Yeah.
The bond issue is about to be resolved. What I was talking about, although my name's not attached to it, is, and we'll go over it again tonight when I go through the section again with you a little bit in a little more detail. The issue is whether you take out bonds for the public officials. Most communities are not bonding; they are insuring. I don't know how that translated into prosecution.
I don't either, but I did read that and thought
Good
that
for you.
makes
Yeah,
sense.
they do not bond; they insure.
Okay, so we will make that correction also.
Yeah, they may in some circumstances do it, but we have a lot of the communities in the old days had very, very detailed bonding requirements for certain types of public officials. And my understanding is the common practice now is that we have insurance to cover those types of issues. And we do have prosecutors. Although I don't think I raised it in that context, if we have public officials who are absconding with public funds, then we go to the US attorney or the state's attorney. Or the police.
Okay, wait a minute, now I messed up my minutes here. Okay. Okay, so with those corrections, are there any other additional corrections? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor of the minutes as corrected?
Aye.
Aye.
Hands up, okay. The motion carries unanimously. And now on to April 19. So a motion to receive and approve.
I'll motion that we receive and approve these.
Okay,
Second.
okay, so once again, I have some corrections on page 3. This says that Mrs. Brescia said the commission is focusing on the charter. And there's a word in there, will, which needs to be taken out. And it should read on the charter being reviewed within the next 2 or 3 years with, and it reads request that it be reviewed every 5 years. And I believe we have taken the position that it would be required, that we intend to. We've discussed that at length, that it will be one of our recommendations. And then down a couple of paragraphs, it says that Mrs. Marinopoulos said that she thinks there is a lot of state appointments and there is a lot of double dipping. I don't know what, if anybody recalls that, but I don't recall that comment, and I don't know if it's accurate or not. But if anybody has recall of that,
Let me look at my notes quickly.
okay.
I might not have gotten her name because it was a difficult name. She spoke right after.
Well, there was a lot of note, a lot of minutes for somebody to take, but.
Yeah, I don't have.
Yeah, I believe what she was referring to there was not enough diverse opinion in different sectors
I
on
don't-
boards
yeah.
and at the state level.
Okay.
So I've heard that before.
Okay, all right, and then on the next page, the second paragraph is just a typo. As a representative of the East Norwalk Neighborhood Association, she said they struggled to get the word out to people, not work.
Yeah,
And then on the last page, well, I already did that one. I'm sorry, I did that one. So, okay, and on the last page, top, it said Mr. Fairbrand said he was settled on a 2-year term for mayor. And I believe he's always advocated for a 4-year.
he has.
And so I believe that's a mistake. And then further down on that section, Mrs. Brescia said her intention is to create a list of concerns and interests expressed by the residents. I said, Mrs. Brescia said the commission's intention is to create a list of concerns that we were going to present, after, if they're not included in any changes. So if those changes are acceptable to the commission, any additional corrections? None, all those in favor of the minutes as corrected.
Aye.
Right, unanimously approved, so we can now get down to some meaty business here. So I will turn it over to our counsel, Steve Mendick. And you guide us through the next steps. You're muted.
You're muted.
Muted.
Steve. We got your screen
Steve?
share too small, but your mic's muted.
Was having problems manipulating my
Yeah.
my mouse. I'm sorry.
Not easy. Okay.
All right, but I have three
Can you
screens.
make it a little bigger, Steve?
I will. I'm just getting
Yeah.
to it. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Take
No,
it.
we kind of go, tell me if you don't want to go through this again. We kind of went through this quickly at the last meeting. Do you want me to go through boards and commissions again, or do you want me to discuss departments? I feel like I kind of ran through it
You
quickly.
did run
Ran
through
through
it.
it very quickly. And
yeah.
and yes, I do want to go.
But that's why I wanted to start there. I just want to make sure you
Okay.
guys were on board with my approach. All right, so this is the, let me say a couple things. First of all, I finally finished. I'm sorry, I just got you the department section this morning, but you'll have time to go through it. And we need to talk about the last few meetings. We have to see if we can sneak another meeting in somewhere, possibly. I am now done with all of the revisions. I was waiting for comments back from department heads and things like that that really put me off about a week and a half later than I wanted to be on the department section. But we're now ready. And what I started doing today, so that you should feel pleased that we're moving in the right direction, is I began to integrate the document. So I have now been creating the charter, and right now I have chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 9 in there. I also have the chapter, which I think is going to be 12, on the tax districts, because as you may recall, I'm moving things out of the charter into the tax district provisions in the charter, nothing changing, but it's just going to have some new things in it. And then I'm also creating a chapter that is a chapter that deals with special act provisions. In many cases, I'm getting comfortable with eliminating a number of provisions, and we're going to be eliminating a lot of provisions. But when we get to the department section, you're going to see a number of transition provisions. And what I am doing is putting into the historical section of the charter all the provisions that are in the current charter relating to departments that we're going to be transitioning the bulk of their duties and responsibilities to the code of ordinances, so that there will be, in the charter that there shall be something. But I think the general idea is that most of this stuff should be placed in the ordinances. But in order to make sure that we don't eliminate something, or that we're operating without a department that we need to have, I'm proposing an article at the end of the charter that will be a shrinking, vanishing article, because the idea is most of it is going to be sunsetted, tied to the transition from charter to ordinance. And as the ordinances are adopted, the Corporation Council will issue an opinion stating that Article 13, whatever the article is, I think it's 13, section blop can be eliminated from the charter. So we're creating an article in the charter that I hope by the time another commission meets in a year or two, whenever that is, as we approve it by the commission, that chapter will be gone. It won't be in the charter any longer, because it's going to be subject to sunset, and it will go away at some point. It's going to be creating a part 3. So I just wanted to give you a little sense of how that is going to work. And we'll see
Let
that.
me interrupt for a minute because Tyler Fairburn has joined us, so I want it in the record. So Steve, go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, Tyler. Nice to see you.
Yes, Steve.
So generally, what I want to talk about are some of the new sections that you're going to see that aren't in the charter now, and that we are going to be recommending. One of them talks about the creation of boards and commissions, and which is the section that is on the screen as we speak. This tells the public, and it tells the officials It's interesting. I will not name names, and it's not Norwalk, and I won't tell you the town or the city that's involved, but I had a conversation with somebody about a charter where I take the position that I reorganize charters sometimes and don't change a thing except reorganizing them to make them more readable and understandable. And this person said to me, well, it's a governing document, not a user guide.
Ah,
And I said, whoa, it's not a user guide, but the governing documents should not be written in the language that the Declaration of Independence and the US Constitution were written in. That was a different time and a different world. And look at the damage that's being done with some of the language in those documents. And so I have tried to simplify where I can. And that's one of the things that we're going to continue to do throughout this process. Even when it goes to the council, I will still ask members of the commission to keep reading the darn document because we're going to keep cleaning it up so that when the council sends it back to you, you're going to see some edits. Because I'm going to continue to edit all the way through this process to make sure that we end up with the best and cleanest document. So this section really manifests what I think a charter should say. We have boards and commissions. What do people know about boards and commissions? How much do they really know? And so this really talks about what the purpose of a board or commission is, that they have policy functions, advisory functions. Some have quasi-judicial or regulatory functions, like the Planning and Zoning Commission, for example. Quasi-judicial, the Board of Ethics makes decisions that are based on documentary evidence. Kind of commission that you might want to have a lawyer representing you on if you're called before them, or same thing with planning and zoning. Others are more policy-oriented groups. Some are more department-oriented. So part one tells you what the role of boards and commissions are. It also points out that if you're on a board commission, you're there not to advance the interest of your party, of your mayor, of your appointing authority. You're there to advance the public interest. And that's a standard, the very, very important standard that's not stated in charters. It should be implicit in public service, but I think it's important in the times we're living in to make those kinds of things explicit. And then it also describes the functions of a charter, of a commission, as well as the departmental policy and administrative functions. In the footnotes, and I don't know if this will stay, but I think it might, is I try to list to give you examples of the bodies that are regulatory. You can see that list. They're obvious, right? Civil service, if there's a civil service commission, Board of Ethics, Zoning Board of Appeals, Planning and I don't think you have civil service in town. Yeah, so that's going to come out. Planning and zoning, you now have the combined Planning and Zoning Commission, Building Board of Appeals, Personnel Appeals Board, Inland Wetlands, Fire and Police Commissions have some regulatory functions, and then you have the department and administrative functions. Good examples of those would be the Fire and Police Commission. You don't have an Equity and Inclusion Commission. This was a list I was developing. It's not totally yours, and your library board, we'll have to talk about it, does not show up, to my knowledge, in the charter. We could place it in the charter, see the place for that at some later point. We also talk about meetings, that there's the objective of these bodies is to have an open meeting environment, that you want to make sure that people have optimal opportunity to appear before the bodies, to listen to the bodies, to pay attention to the bodies. I want to make a change with your approval because I should have made it in my draft, but I have a provision here that I want to be careful about. In furtherance of the objective, boards and commissions shall utilize all technology, provided by the city. I think we need to have somewhere in here that the city, and I do say it shall migrate toward, so I guess that's okay, migrate toward ensuring that technology is available.
yeah, I thought that was good.
Yeah, because you want to make it aspirational, because if you make it mandatory, then every city in the state will be in violation, because no city is going to be able to afford all the technology to, at least at this point, maybe 10 years from now, we'll find our way to a point where everybody has the technology. It's all available. But right now, we don't have the technology to do all these things for every board and commission all the time. And so that's why the migration language is in there, because I think it sets a standard that we need in our budget process to be moving toward that goal, moving toward rooms that are acoustically comfortable, so the people who are listening at home are not listening to echoes, so they can actually hear the speakers clearly, and that the people in the room can hear those people who are participating remotely as if they were in the room. So I think that those are new provisions that I think really kind of set the table for the way boards and commissions should be functioned. I also do make reference in the open meeting provisions to, well, I think I deal with this later, actually. It's not in this section here. The next section is the administrative requirements. I want to make sure that when we're adopting and creating boards and commissions that we have some kind of uniformity. And there is kind of uniformity if you look at the Code of Ordinances, but this just kind of lays out the template that you have to state the number of board and commission members, alternates if they apply, what their terms of office are, and you want to have odd numbers, and you want to try to not to exceed a term of 4 years. You could argue over 4 years or 6 years, whatever it may be, or 3 years, whatever it is. I've usually thrown 4 years in, which seems to be kind of an acceptable term. I don't think many people want to accept a term on any board or commission for more than 4 years. So it's kind of a logical number. The ordinance also has to allow for the appointment of the appropriate officers, chair, the requirement of keeping records and posting. These are all legally required. But I think it's important when you're creating a board, what is a commissioner going to look at? They're not going to look at the charter. They're going to look at the ordinance that created the commission. And that will tell them that there better be records, what we did tonight, approving the minutes of these meetings, and that those requirements have to be met. Strict compliance, I don't use the word strict, but compliance with the minority party representation statute, which is also a provision of this charter for all boards and commissions, not for the elected bodies, as we know. That the ordinance should allow for public access, public comment, and interaction, including public speaking and comment. And if the ordinance doesn't address it, the rules of the body should address it. I have a community where they said there shall be a public hearing, but there shall be no expectation that members of the public will be allowed to speak. Well, what on earth does that mean? And so what it means to me, and I think it was stated inartfully, and I've corrected the language, is not everybody is going to get to speak. If you have 100 people and you have an agenda full of items and your rules say we have 45 minutes of public comment and you have a 3-minute rule, you're only going to get the number of people that fit within the 45 minutes or the 30 minutes or the 60 minutes with that rule. Now, that could be waived if it's an important item, but if you're dealing with a deadline, you need to get down to your business at some point. So not every member of the public is going to get to speak at a public hearing, but there should be sufficient time for broad representation of the public to speak. And one way chairs can make that happen is to say, if you have a bunch of repetitive people coming from the same trade association, look, the testimony's in, we got it. Is there anybody else who wants to say anything that's not in this trade group or in this community group to be able to testify? So there's ways for chairs to make sure that you get a broad swath of the public, and your rules can allow for some flexibility. One of the issues that I usually put in here that you may address is a frequency standard, that meetings are monthly, they're held 4 times a year, whatever it may be. If it's not in the ordinance, we think that the board or commission should establish a standard. The reason you want the standard is one of the things that we have talked about is dismissing people from boards or commissions because they are not attending meetings. And so you need to have a standard that they're violating in order to take that kind of action. There should be a statement on quorum. And I have this section highlighted because I still want to do a little more work. If you all could look at this, how to make sure, you want to make sure that boards and commissions are not eluding or evading responsibility. I've had situations where we've had in certain communities really critical items and the board says, well, we don't meet during the summer. And this is a rule that's kind of established that you really cannot cancel 2 meetings in a row.
And so
Unless-
this is new, Steve.
This is new. Yeah, all new. Yeah. So 13 is new. Yep, 13 is new. And so take a look at that section. I want to make sure it's not too harsh. I do give members the ability to call meetings in the charter so that if somebody is trying to elude public discourse, I've seen this happen with police commissions in controversial areas and others in other communities. So I've tried to put this type of provision together to make sure that a board or commission doesn't ignore the need for public discourse and public interaction. The next section.
Question.
Yep.
So, just on the terms board and commission, I mean, these are basically synonymous, right? I mean, we can use them interchangeably, and the issue is, whether you decide to name one as a commission or a board. And I'm wondering whether this is something the public will easily understand. Do we need to say upfront that, a board or commission is essentially sort of a similar body so that they understand that, we're not conferring any additional powers to the board or to the commission. They can be used synonymously.
I think
And I guess maybe the
that is
biggest-
identified, Angela, early on.
It's a defined
term.
through my, if you go back to the charter section, article 2,
It's
we
early.
have a definition
Do it
of
there?
board and commission.
We did. Okay, great. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Because
No, let's
my
take a good
concern is
look at it.
also that it doesn't have agencies and other.
Yeah, yeah.
trailing
Yeah,
smaller.
I took all that extraneous language out. The definition is for the purpose of this charter and except as otherwise provided by law, the terms board and commission shall include all boards, agencies, commissions, authorities, or other entities of the city, whether elected or appointed, including the Board of Education.
Are there any other comments or questions from any of the commissioners on this section so far? I don't see any. There are, Steve, there are a couple of minor typos a couple of times when you say board and commission, it's reading board of, so it's board or commission.
We'll get those. We'll get
Yeah.
those. If you're keeping track, give me your papers.
I
at some
am,
point.
but I'm really not good at getting that
We will
mechanic
take care of it.
out to you. That's my problem. I
All right,
find,
we'll make sure it's taken care of. We're gonna do some very,
and
very
under
careful
B1 also, this is where it said a number shall always be odd. So it's in odd years or, the number shall not be odd. Well, it's not clear. Anyway.
well, the number of members on a board or commission shall be an odd number.
Yeah, but not odd.
Well, there could be odd people on a board or commission, but that was not the
It
intent.
probably might
An
be.
odd number of members. I'll make sure that's fixed.
Okay. Any other comments from anybody? Okay,
Before we move on,
move on.
I want to just say to Angela, take a look at that definition
Yeah, I'm still a
and make
little,
sure you're comfortable with it. That's
Early.
all.
yeah. I still wonder whether, folks will easily, we lump them together, and I just wonder whether we need to do something a bit more there. I'll take a look.
Why you call one board the board of the police we're now calling the police commission and the fire commission commissions.
Yes.
I think there's been an interchangeable term for those two entities. We should look at it, maybe get rid of the term. Well, then we have a board of education. We're not calling it the education commission.
Yeah.
The board of estimate and taxation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
so,
think there's a historical piece there, but I just wonder if they're interchangeable, why not streamline? But there could be more to it that I
yeah,
understand.
so that's why I want to try to define it. Look at the definition, see what,
Yeah.
if you think we can clean that up.
Okay, will do.
And just again, finishing up the public records, it doesn't state anything earth-shattering. It simply states that all the records that you are involved in are public records. And you saw what happened, where was it, in some municipality where everybody went into a back room and a reporter left a voice-activated tape recorder in the room and recorded everything that these public officials were saying. And you've had at least one resignation from that group because of things like that. But everything you do should be official. As we, tonight we were in a quandary when we had 3 members. What could we do? What could we not do? We couldn't take any votes, is what we knew we couldn't do without that. We're not taking votes tonight except for the minutes anyhow. But that's all that section says. This is the party representation provision that applies to boards and commissions. And this is a provision that prohibits compensation. I think that is in your charter already. No, it's not, but the statutes don't, the statutes don't deal with most boards. There are some boards that can't get compensation. Board of Education by law cannot be compensated, which is absurd from my perspective. And the Board of Estimate, boards of finance cannot be compensated. In some communities, I've done some relaxation of these types of provisions to allow for expenses. If you really want a diverse membership in your boards and commissions, there are people who don't have the luxury to be able to leave their kids at home by themselves, or that cannot afford to bring their car downtown or need to get on the bus to get to the meeting. And so in Hartford, I think we relaxed it this year to allow for some reimbursement to accommodate people who could use the assistance, whether it's a meal at the meeting, if it's an evening meeting, daycare or babysitting for their children, if there is evinced a need for that type of thing. So you might think about that. I put in the standard provision where people do not get paid. There.
And
Points, the
I had one thing that I just questioned a little bit for clarity on language was in K. You refer pretty much at the end about the assignment of communications technologies, where in other sections we had made it clearer about being posted on the website or, those kind of things. And I thought we should be consistent throughout the document.
Well, we are, because if you see the reference in there to section 1-4 Q and V,
Yeah,
that's the section that talks about the websites.
well, this is presented a little differently than in other sections. That's my comment.
Well,
So that you have to refer to the section in order to understand what this is saying. You have to go back to section 7-1A.
yeah, that's what you have. That's what you have to do. You don't want to. What I try to do is I try to eliminate redundant language.
Yeah, I
And that's
realize.
why I have references back to the sections that establish the principle.
Yeah, but I don't ever remember seeing this phrase in any other section, which is on the assignment of communications technologies. And I don't recall seeing that anywhere else in any of our language.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
That's what I'm
So
referring
what
to.
Yeah, so what do you want me to say?
Well, I don't know. I just thought I want us to be consistent. That's all. When you have a chance, take a look at it.
I will. I got it.
Okay, thanks.
I'll fix that language. Got it.
Yeah,
All right. Now we get into the meat of we have removal. Oh, you jumped ahead of removal. You jumped, yeah.
I did.
We jumped ahead. So we have removal provisions in here that are in are new, and established misconduct in the performance of duties, persistent absence. Remember, I said you need to establish a standard, conviction of a felony while in office. This next one is a little more difficult. Maybe Michael has some thoughts on it. Commissioner Witherspoon might have some thoughts on it. Conviction.
Number 4.
This is number 4. While in office of a misdemeanor, which would undermine the public confidence in the member's ability to perform the duties of office. And I was going to add the clause as may be determined by the Board of Ethics. You want to have some entity that makes that determination. You don't want to leave it up to a political common council. They have the ability to remove somebody, but you don't want them making a look what's going on around the country in Montana and in Tennessee with some of those are extreme instances of that. But you could just as easily see a political contrivance where somebody says, what's a misdemeanor? Somebody got a parking ticket or a speeding ticket. Would that be the basis for having somebody leave a board or commission for that kind of misdemeanor? That's why I've used the term public confidence, the ability to perform the duties of office, because it really should be something of that nature. And we do have a body that can make those determinations. If there's an ethics violation, conflict of interest, if the misdemeanor is related to that in some way, but it wasn't quite a felony, but it does deal with that type of issue. Maybe you do that, and it's a kind of a two-prong effort. You have to get the Board of Ethics to make that determination. Then the council can move to remove somebody for that kind of conviction if there is a determination of that clause has been violated. I know, Michael, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah,
from a legal perspective?
That probably would be the best board to probably to look at the seriousness of the misdemeanor. So like you said, misdemeanor could be right parking ticket or something like that, and now you lose your job. And so I would probably agree that the Board of Ethics appropriate one to determine the seriousness of this misdemeanor.
Any other comments?
No, I'd agree with that. I mean, the instrument's already in place in ethics board, and that we probably don't use it as much as we could or should.
Yep, completely agree.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, so.
And the last one is a violation of the.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
sorry.
What is 7-1? What is that? Can you?
Section you're in right now, you're in 7-1F is right below. It's the elector requirement to be an elector in your community. So if you move from Norwalk and you don't leave the commission and you start showing up commission meetings, you can be removed from the commission.
Okay, all right, and are we comfortable that that's referenced that way rather than just simple language? Rather than reference to the violation?
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. It probably simple language that if you
It's consistent.
if you move out,
Right.
you move out.
You have to be, an elector. It's referenced several other places in the charter that you have to be an elector. And if you cease to be, then you can't stay in the position.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just to the point of clear, easy reading.
Cease to be an elector
By moving out of the
as required by section 7-1F. I think we need to make the reference because
Yeah,
it's in
that's
there.
fine. Yeah,
That's fine.
yeah.
Okay.
A little more
Right.
clarity. Yeah.
That's cool.
Okay.
All right, excellent. Good catch. H, representation. This is I've done broader versions of this in other charters, but I recommend this language because it says to mayors and other appointing authorities that when you're appointing a board or commission, obviously you have the political party affiliation issue, but you should also be looking at the diversity of the residents and of the geographic areas of the city. One of the things that you see in a
Can I
lot
interrupt you for a
of
minute? I think you said H, but you're really talking about G, right?
G.
Yeah, G.
I was going to go to H, but I moved back to G.
Okay.
thank you for keeping me on track here. G, to make sure that you're looking at the diversity of the residents and the geographic areas. So you're looking at a lot of different things. You want to make sure that I've seen boards and commissions over my lifetime in public service that have a lot of people from the west side or the east side or the south side or the north side. And then they tend to ignore other regions of the city. This says to the city council, when the mayor sends somebody over to you and they're the third resident on a 5-member body from the same neighborhood, that you need to be thinking about whether that person should be on that body. And that's all it is. It's kind of a standard. It's a soft standard, but it's a standard.
And it's new. You're saying.
And it's new. It's new.
Yeah.
No, and I think the key part there is, to the fullest extent possible. So that gives it a little bit of, I think that's very good.
Everybody has flexibility and, and people can make rationales and judgments but but the idea is to really introduce the concept that and I don't know whether Norwalk doesn't have broadly representative boards and commissions. I don't know the answer. We received no testimony on it. But it's not a bad provision to have in your constitutional document.
I think it's a good idea to have it in there because I do believe, my personal opinion is that the populace believes that it's otherwise.
Yeah, but,
So clarity here would
right.
help.
That's great. The next provision, Carl, H, we are now at H. Thank you. This is the infamous required cooperation provision. Remember, this was in the Board of Education section. I moved it back here to make sure that it applied to every board and commission, including the Board of Education. And I'm going to make that language very, very clear. What I haven't done yet is I haven't done the run through the document with my definitions. Once I have the integrated document, I will go down the list of definitions and run through them to make sure that they're consistently used throughout the document. So there's a bunch of runs I have to do on the document that will clean up these types of sections. And this basically says that you all need to work together. It's said earlier in this chapter as well. It's in this article. When we talk about departments, commissions that are tied to a department, it says you need to work with your department head. And the department head needs to work with you. Again, the concept of cooperation, but establishing a constitutional standard. You'll see it again, well, you saw it in the very first chapter we dealt with, budget. There's a cooperation provision as well. So I don't think it can be repeated enough between you and me. So that's one of the exceptions to my redundancy rule.
Okay,
And then we just-
clarity on that. This section does not include any other references to the Board of Education.
This
is boards and commissions, not elected board. It doesn't have the council, it doesn't have the Board of Ed here in Article 7.
Well, boards and commissions, if you look at the definition of boards and commissions, it includes the Board of Education.
Yeah, but it says it's not listed under this section.
No, it's listed in the definition. So you don't have to repeat it every time. I used to have charters because I was trying to emphasize the point that the Board of Education is a board of the city, that I would say boards and commissions, including the Board of Education. I do it once because I put it in the definition. So it doesn't have to be repeated every time.
I understand that concept, but I'm looking at this, and when I read it right away, I said, well, the Board of Ed is not listed here. And
Well, it's not. It's in the defined term. That's why you do definitions. I'll put it in if you want it, but it's in the
well, I
defined
don't think
term.
it's clear at all. This looks like it's not, they're not included.
Not if you read the definition. If I have to go to court on the issue of whether the Board of Education is included, we will win. It's in the definition of the term that is capitalized throughout the document. But if you want to do it for emphasis, I'm happy to do it.
But Steve, what would a common citizen that wanted to read through this, would they understand that they need to go to the definitions to know that the Board of Education is included here?
But then we would have to add all the.
Oh, my goodness, who is this?
I've been here. I've been here since the beginning of it. I've been quiet. If you do that, you're going to get into a problem each time that you come to a part that's going to have to explain, let's say if it's a zoning department commission or if it's a thing. I think Steve is right where I've seen it in other documents also, that the definitions list all the commissions, all the departments and everything, and they run through the thing. Because if you had to add those to each one of these sections or parts, you're going to lose track of it.
Why don't we do this? To make it clear?
Hang on a minute, I'm sorry. I buy that, but should anybody that is asked a question about this, and I'm talking about anybody who works for the city or whatever, be schooled in the part that says just exactly what you just said, Richard? So that citizen A could ask that question of anybody in city government, and they get basically the same direction that you just gave.
How about in this required cooperation provision, for clarity, that we state in the two cases where boards and commissions are mentioned, shall assist boards and commissions, whether elected or appointed. And then in the event a board or commission, whether elected or appointed, is attached to a department, that makes it pretty clear.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
If we need to
Gotta
put
make it clear.
But to that point, for me, it's not clear enough for me, because if you aren't listing them there, why bother list the Board of Estimate, the Police Commission, the Fire Commission? Just, it's a general statement for any board, because
But they're
once
not-
you start the list, that's implied that something is not included. That's my concern.
If you say elected or appointed, everybody's included.
Yeah, but then again, you don't articulate, you articulate three things under board and commissions and required by the chart, established in the charter. And the Board of Education, is it established in the charter or not?
Yeah. There's a
Okay,
whole chapter on the Board of Ed.
so I think it would make more sense and be more readable if it was included. And it's such a issue of misunderstanding and contentiousness currently, that I think it's important to articulate it clearly
Would that,
rather than have it be.
Why don't we say as defined in section such and such, which says the Board of Education? So a member of the public in this, I don't want to do that every time board and commission comes up, because we're going to be adding a clause 150 times in here.
Right.
But in this section, if we say as defined in Article 2, section, whatever the section is, then the Board of Ed is there. And then to the point that, members of the public, are they going to understand if they see this in isolation, but they're going to see as defined? Most members of the public would go back to the beginning of the charter and look at the definition and see that Board of Education is in there.
Well, I hear you. I disagree that I don't think they will.
Do you think everywhere we say
That
board,
they're not there?
so you think every place where we have board and commission, we have to say including the Board of Ed?
No, I don't, but this is your structure here. This is your categories. It's not referencing specific things.
I would be concerned that if you add it further inflames the agita there was around it in the first place, right? Which was that
I agree.
they were specifically being listed. If you say, my only concern would be that, the title is Section 7.1 General Requirements for Appointed Boards and Commissions. That would, the Board of Ed is obviously not appointed, but
They're elected.
right. But I would be hesitant to name them specifically because now they are specifically being added, which seemed to be the issue in the first place, when the point we're trying to make is that it applies to everybody, including them. They are not being singled out. They're part of every other
Okay.
whatever point. But I guess I would just be, I don't know if that means we have to change the title of the section.
No,
That's
I have
a
a better approach.
Yeah.
Let's take H out of here, move H to Article 2 at the, where I have open meetings, public records, and add a section 2.2-6, which is required cooperation. And in that section, we will do appointed and elected boards. So there's no doubt it applies to all boards and commissions.
Yeah.
And that way,
I think that's much clearer
I
because this
agree.
says that this is appointed and obviously the Board of Education is elected.
no, that's a very good point. I think that's how I solve the problem. I'll take it out
Okay,
of
yeah,
this. It'll go into the general broad policies of the municipality. Remember, that's where we have open meetings and diversity
Yeah.
and all sorts of things are in their rules of order and civility. So that's what we'll do. I'll take care of that tomorrow.
okay,
Good,
Thank-
excellent, good catch. The next section, let me just make a note here. All right, I made the note already. The next section is the change I made, we're gonna make with regard to that line that I'm glad that Patsy read it. Item number 6, I will deal with item number 6 on administration of boards and commissions.
Okay.
And then we go to our boards. Not a lot of changes here. We have the Board of Estimate and Taxation, which is listed fairly clearly. Vacancies are again addressed earlier in the charter. I don't think, yeah, 7.1D, the section we just went over, the vacancies are dealt with there. The powers, no new powers. No new, these are all current provisions of the charter. Let me see, there's a new one here. Let's see. Number 38. $39. There's 2 different footnotes in 38 and 39. I have to take a look at that because I have it as a current section, but I have powers as a new section. I'm going to check the footnote. And I don't think I added anything new. I wasn't going to mess with the Board of Estimate and Taxation. Yeah, it was not going to mess with them. The only thing that I left open here is this is current language, election expenses. I don't know if each voting precinct and voting, I think polling place, I don't know, Rick, do you have any thoughts on that language? Or should I talk to the registrar and see what here?
I'm looking,
where are you? I missed,
6.
It's 6, just above the police commission.
election.
I don't
expense.
see anything wrong with that. Each voting precinct and the voting place.
All right, then that's probably okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't bump that.
I'll leave it.
It's not that.
Is that in our current?
Yes, that's
Yes.
current. No change. That's current language. Okay, good. Then we go to the police commission and there's one new change here. And that is the composition. There's going to be 4 electors instead of 2. I'm going to put some language in
No.
here.
Oh,
Which
no,
will-
Yeah, right. We're going from 3 to 5.
3 to 5, yeah.
Yeah, but it's 4
With the mayor
electors
being-
plus the
4
mayor.
electors and a mayor.
So I'm going to add to the last sentence, this sentence right here, which I will highlight in a second. That in addition to the 4 electors, the mayor shall be. So it makes it clear that there's 5. It's a little, we could say that there shall be a 5-member police commission comprised of 4 electors, then the mayor shall be, be the 5th member or something like that. But I was trying to keep it as close to what the current language was. I mean, if you think it's clearer to say that it's a 5-member commission, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, including the mayor, but then it goes on to say the mayor shall be ex officio.
Yeah.
A voting member and chair of the commission.
Yeah,
which
he's a
makes
full
him
member.
Number 5.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Makes him
It's-
number 5.
Yeah, but is that the word ex officio, is that in conflict?
No,
He's
ex
a
officio,
full member.
he's a full member because he votes.
Yeah,
But ex officio is he's there by virtue of his position. That's what that term
Okay.
means. That's all.
I thought our intent was to take that commission to 5 members.
It is
With
5.
mayor.
It
No,
will be.
We are 3 to 5. It's
No,
currently-
Because then if you add the mayor, it would be 6 and you would have an even number and you wouldn't, you know, you could end up with tie. It's gotta be an odd number.
It's 3 now.
No, I understand.
Yeah, okay.
It's 3 now with the mayor.
Right.
Including
now
the-
with the mayor.
I
Three
mean,
now with the mayor, and there'll be 5
Yes.
with the mayor.
the comments, I think most of the comments we've received around the police commission have said 5, which I interpreted to mean
With the mayor.
3 with the mayor to 5 with the mayor.
Yeah, you wouldn't want 6 because it would be tie.
Okay, I mean. What I've heard is that the more
Some people would like 7.
people that would be,
Yeah.
well, some people might want 10. But
Well, that maybe we can suggest that be reviewed in the next go around.
well, we're keeping the 6 districts, right? I mean, it stays the same, that doesn't change. 6 voting districts,
5,
so we had 5 and then at large.
right. Well,
So-
at large is representatives of the other 5.
Yeah, so,
There's 5 voting districts.
right. So what I've heard is that's why they would like to have 5 police commissioners. And 1 representing each voting district.
Oh, I hadn't heard that. That's interesting.
I've heard 5, including the mayor, that I have heard
Yeah.
many times for many years.
There's one community only that I'm aware of that has their police commission based on council districts, and that's Hamden, where they have 9 commissioners, 1 from each of the districts. The idea was again to have diverse, broad geographic representation as well as other forms of diversity as well. You kind of catch that with geographic representation. for the
Well, that's
most
kind of
part.
what I'm saying, except,
Yeah.
you know, we couldn't go to, it wouldn't take any council people at large into effect, but it would take the councilmatic districts into effect.
So are you saying
They're
that
appointed, not elected,
The commissioners are,
are appointed. not
right.
elected.
So you're saying they should be appointed from each of the 5 A, B, C, D?
What I've heard is that there's not enough representation for that, the districts aren't all the same, and they're not. So what I've had whispered in my ear is that with the way the city's growing and so on and so forth, that it would be nice to have a commissioner representing each district of the city.
But if we don't add that somewhere else, it's still up to the person that's appointing them. Can pick them from anywhere. You can pick all 5 from one, 4 from all one place.
You'd have to
Well,
put it, you'd have to put it in this, you'd have to put it
Okay.
in this,
Not if you did, not if we wrote it in the way I'm saying it.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
you'd have to write it in the establishment clause. Right here.
But then you get to 6, an uneven number.
Or the mayor's district doesn't have representation other than himself.
Or
Right,
the mayor is a tie vote.
Right.
the
He
mayor's
breaks
a
the tie
tie,
vote.
the mayor's a, yes. The
The mayor's the
tiebreaker.
chair and the tie vote breaker. I mean, he breaks
Correct.
the vote.
Mhm.
That's,
Correct.
that would be the concept.
Yeah.
That would be the concept.
Well, like, I think we should come back to that. You know, we have a list
Okay.
of things that we want to review.
I mean, it
Yeah. and it's a
certainly
new
at the top of
concept.
everybody's mind because of what's going on in the country. So
Yeah. True.
thank God we haven't had a situation. So
Okay, so in this section,
And I just,
does the chief, do they really fix the salaries and compensation? It's not under ordinance? Do the commissioners set the salaries for the chief?
for the chief, maybe, yes.
I
They-
I'm
believe-
not sure. I'm asking, I like.
I believe they do.
clarification on-
I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah,
I believe they do.
Can
that's
we
the way the
check on
current language,
that?
that's current language. I don't know if that's changed. I took a lot of things out that
Yeah.
are not longer applicable, but
We should check on that because, you know, there's been a lot of ordinance changes
Hmm.
and I'm not sure about that.
No, I'm not either.
that did not come in any of the reviews by the executive. They did look at this
Mhm.
section.
Okay.
Our-
Well, I'm looking just to be educated to the
I agree.
whether it is or it isn't.
I'm trying to recall if I've ever seen a salary number. in the
I'm not
budget.
challenging it. I just.
We just did it. I mean, we can find out what they did as far as Chief Walsh and Chief Blake.
Right. Do you ever remember seeing a salary number in the budget for those two positions? Rick?
I didn't look
Yeah.
at that.
Okay,
We'll
could
just
tomorrow.
check and move on,
Yeah.
okay?
I think we
Um,
check it.
all right, where are we now?
Well, just going through this section there, I took out of this section, the request of the administration, the supernumerary police, and there's different types of categories of police that are no longer in existence. So you won't see that terminology in here. They're supernumerary or call police. They call them call police. I don't know if that's something like the militia from the United States Constitution, but that's no longer, it's not something that exists. And these are the functions. Yeah, I mean, this is the duties of the police and to fix the salaries and compensation. I think that's ultimately a council function or it's a board of finance function. But I will check that language. I will just check that. No one commented on it earlier, but I will check that language. So then,
Because a lot of it is union also.
oh yeah, no, the
Oh,
officers
yeah.
are union. Then the powers are further, and these powers, to some extent, are addressed in typo.
But go
Are dealt with in the collective bargaining agreement. I'm not quite sure how to deal with it. I'm going to look at it a little more carefully. If it doesn't get fixed when we send it over, we'll fix it when it's at the council. What I've done with these types of provisions that pre-exist the collective bargaining agreements is to try to either have language that reverse engineers to create, because I don't think the police commission plays a role in discipline. I think it's the chief and the chief, maybe the mayor, under the collective bargaining agreement. And so if that's the case, a lot of this language just probably can still go away.
Yeah.
But I have not made I haven't gotten final answers on some of that.
Okay,
This last one that's in yellow will go away. I believe that the policeman's benefit fund doesn't really exist any longer.
No longer.
I'm trying to get definitive word on that. There is a police fund and there's a fires fund, but I don't think that they are the funds that are referred to in the charter. I've asked for a definitive answer on that. Right now, I've moved these sections to the historical sections of the charter because, and I'll probably move this language out of there as well. I don't think that fund exists. Is somebody agreeing with that or
Yeah,
disagreeing?
I do.
Yeah, I think so. In
I-
fact, I didn't even think those funds were legal anywhere anymore in police and fire departments.
Well, these were their pensions. I mean, this
No,
is,
I understand.
yeah, but they now have a real pension is the
Right,
point.
right.
Yeah.
right.
That would replace this.
Yes.
Oh,
On both
absolutely. I'm
sides.
just,
Yeah.
and what I want to do, Carl and Rick, is and all members of the commission, I'm not just speaking to those two, that I want to get rid of all this language out of the charter. If there
Sure.
is not a soul in the world that is taking funds from the firemen's or policemen's benefit funds, which are two separate funds, then they don't need to be referred to and confuse the public. They
It'd
don't-
be
Right.
out there, yeah, because it would
I
take them
agree.
longer to look for it.
and I'm telling you, it's not so easy to find some of these things out sometimes. Next is the fire commission. We have some of the same issues here. We have the 4 electors, so it mirrors the police. So I assume that if you want to make a change for the police, you'd want to make the same change of
All
fire.
right, let's put that in that same category.
All right, and guys, you got to figure out when you're going to talk about this because we're running out of time. That's the only thing I want to tell you. So 5 members by district.
so under the fire commission, I believe Rowayton is still a volunteer fire department.
Yes.
And so there's no reference to that here.
There's never been a reference to it.
It's a volunteer, it's its
It's a
own,
volunteer, so
It's their own
not
fire
part.
district. It's not under our charter. It's a
yeah,
separate
it's
district.
their own fire. They have their own chief, they have their own equipment, they have everything is their own.
Exactly. But it is, they are not excluded in this language. It says the city. And the city does not have jurisdiction over the six
I
taxing
think that's a
fire
good point,
department.
because I would assume that Roy is part of the city.
Well, yes, I would too. However, their fire department is independent of the rest of the city. So I think that needs to be referenced.
Where?
Or how?
Well, under maybe A, management and supervision of firefighter of the city, and maybe accepting the,
Well, they're not the fire department of the city, so why?
The fire commission doesn't
because Rowayton is part of the city.
yeah, but the fire commission doesn't oversee the Rowayton Fire Department.
I know,
Yeah, that's what she said.
that's what I'm saying, Rick.
That's what I'm saying, but this here says the fire commission is the city.
Yeah,
So
and
what
they
I-
don't have, and that's why we need to clarify that that district is excluded from this section,
Correct.
Why would it come up though?
because it exists.
But if they have a
But
volunteer.
it has come up in the past in questions of which department goes to the schools, because the Rowayton School, because the school is owned by the city. It has been an issue in discussions throughout the years, but I think we're trying to clarify, our goal is to clarify the charter. And to me, this is not correct language.
So what is it? Are they a fire district? What are they? Tell me what they are.
I
so
don't
can-
know officially what it is called now, but we need to reference it and we have to check. To me, I think we need to check on
I would agree with you. There's enough confusion about what Rowayton is anyway. No, I don't mean that any way other than,
it. But you know, it's just the way it is.
yeah,
All right, but it's never been mentioned in your charter, so that's okay. We'll fix it.
Yeah.
All right.
well, when that charter was put together, even then, probably Rowayton
Wasn't
didn't
there.
exist.
I'll bet you, who knows?
Rowayton Fire Department wasn't there.
Yeah, exactly.
When did they form their fire department?
Oh, I don't know, but it's been a long, you know. it's
Well,
been
they're not,
at least
again,
60 years ago.
again, defined terms, they're not a department of the city, so they're not covered, but we could clarify that, so
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
okay. Belt and suspenders are sometimes not attractive, but they're useful.
Yes.
There's references in C that I've got to fix. I don't know if the supernumerary and call categories exist in fire. I was not so informed. I will double check it now that I've taken that out in the police. I'll just check on the fire. This section I've yellowed again. This is the CBA provision. How do they deal with abolishing offices, removing expulsion, etc.? This will probably go away because I think it's superseded by a collective bargaining agreement. But I didn't want to take it out without further reference. And then again, here's their equivalent to the policeman's fund is the fireman's fund. And they were firemen and policemen back then. I don't think there were any policewomen or firewomen back in the day that these were passed. And I'm not sure, I have a question into what on earth is meant by appointments by the fire commission. I'm trying to get an answer on that because I don't think that necessarily should remain here. All right.
Yeah, I don't know what that means either.
So now we go into other boards and commissions. And what we do in this section is we are mandating the creation of some entities that already exist, but they have not been historically in the charter. This simply mandates their creation. Let me just fix this for a second, because I just noticed a word missing. So we mandate the creation of the Board of Assessment Appeals. That's an essential board. Planning and Zoning Commission. This repeals the current Planning Commission. And I do have a couple of questions here because I think there is some reference to a charter mandated ordinance-based plan this replaces the charter-based planning commission. So you'll see that section being eliminated. We are going to have a conservation commission mandated. It exists, but to mandate it, pension board. I have some questions about what the food services pension board is. I've got to check on that. That's
I
still,
don't think that's still in effect.
what's that?
I don't think that's still in effect.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to find out, but no one has given me, that's why there's still that language there, ZBA. And I've added the Board of Ethics. Your Board of Ethics is never mentioned in your charter. I personally believe and usually recommend, I don't know if we have time to do it, maybe it'll be taken care of when we get to the Common Council. And remember, the Board of Ethics apparently is a Common Council appointment here, not the
Yes.
mayor appointment.
It hasn't been around that long. I think
Yeah.
it was established when I was on the council.
Yeah, so I think that's one that at the very least needs to be mandated in your charter. And number two, I think it should be articulated in your charter. I think it should be laid out very specifically, the powers of a Board of Ethics. That's the kind of board you don't want. In the future, the current council and the current mayor are not going to get rid of the Board of Ethics. But you don't know what kind of future mayors and future councils you're going to have. And you may want to constitutionalize the Board of Ethics. And we haven't had time to really discuss that, but those are my 2 cents on that. And we'll see where that goes. Then,
Steve, just one thing, on the ones that you're trying to get information on, if you could shoot me an email, maybe I can, walk upstairs and somebody rattle a cage.
oh, thank you, Rick. I will definitely do that.
Do those, and I may actually have some of the information here in my office.
All right, Mr. Town Clerk,
Everyone,
I will be happy to send you.
please. I'm gonna be jumping back out to the other meeting I was in. I'm jumping back and forth, so if you see me disappear, I'm
Okay.
going in the other room.
And just to, thank you, Rick. Just to conclude, it also says appointed boards and commissions, may be established by ordinance or maybe otherwise prescribed by the general statutes. And I think 7.5 is repetitive. That's so weird. I think 7.5 is repetitive. So I'm going to take,
Yeah, it is.
yeah, I'm going
Yeah,
to,
it's running over the same thing again.
I got it. I just,
It
And
happens.
Yeah.
and that's it. And
well, I have to go back to the library. We got to do that because the library is a department of the city of Norwalk. Their staff, they're paid, in 2 of the libraries.
so you want to make them a mandated board?
Well, we need to go back to what's in the current charter and talk about it and then make a decision, but it's a city department.
All right, unless I missed it, if it's not in this document, it's not in the current charter. There could be references to it. There's references in the taxing district to libraries. There's,
Maybe that's where I saw it. It would have been established
yeah, and there's references.
around 1970, 71. But they're paid, they're city employees.
I got it.
Okay,
But, so what do you want to do?
well, I want you to research it and let us know where it is in the charter.
What I'm telling you is if, I'll look at it right now, because we don't have a lot of time here. Let me just say that if it was in the charter, and we'll do a run right now. What's it called? The library board?
Yes,
Okay.
The Board of District Commissions shall appoint 2 members of the Norwalk Public Library Board, period. It's not referenced anywhere else. That's the only reference there is. That's in the taxing districts. I have no problem putting the library board into a mandated commission, but it's never been in your charter. It's been in the code somewhere.
we need to discuss it, so one way or the
That's all
other.
I'm saying. I did not miss it. I would not have ignored a library boards a big constituency. You don't mess with library boards, but it's not been in your charter. So I don't know if you want to put it in as one of the mandated commissions, like we have these.
And
know-
well, it is of two, this is confusing. It is of two libraries in the city, not the four. Two of the libraries are city employees, and that is the South Norwalk Library and the Center Library on Belden Avenue. Rowayton and East Norwalk are run by the districts.
I would just recommend that you talk to somebody and see how they want to be dealt with in the charter. They're not in the charter right now. If they want to go into the charter, we can put them in the charter. If we want to, like I've suggested, we have the Board of Ethics full blown in the charter. We could do that with the library board, or we could just name them in the charter as a board. But not create it in it's probably in the code of ordinances already. Well, let me take a quick look.
The 9-member board with two from two districts being appointed by two districts, and then the council, the mayor and the council appoint the others. 5.
They're probably created by here it is, Public Library Board. It's in the code of ordinances. It's chapter 87 of the Code of Ordinances. Exactly what you said there. Well, it doesn't tell you the total numbers. Yeah, there's members of the taxing districts. So it's here. So it's already in the ordinances. So if you want to recognize them in the charter, you can say there shall be a public library board, is what they're called in the code.
But it would have to be defined for the two libraries, not the 4.
Well, it's defined in the ordinances. This simply would be that's why I don't know if we want to start mucking up with what's in the ordinances, or we can simply say there should be a public library board, and then it's dealt with as it's dealt with.
Yeah, but I think the issue may be is that there are 4 libraries, but only 2 are really part of the city of Norwalk.
But the ordinance already addresses that. So what do we have to do in the charter? That it's 9 members, she's right, it's 9 members.
Okay,
And it's government of the Norwalk Public Library.
okay,
And so if it's called that, then that.
So we can have there shall be a public library board with jurisdiction over the Norwalk Public Library. I don't know what else to say.
Sure. Well, I know that the library board has asked for clarifications from the Corporation Council. And so it's an issue, and I think I'd like it addressed.
How do you want to address it?
Well, I think listing it, just like the pension board, the zoning board of appeals, that they don't have any paid, but the planning commission does. And the library board of the libraries are paid.
they're paid staff people,
Yeah, they're city employees.
yeah. Full benefits, all that kind of.
So do you need to say it covers 2 libraries of the city?
Well, if you say the public, the way it was referenced, it sort of explains that Rowayton and East Norwalk are not part of the Norwalk Public Library. Rick, is that correct?
Rick's not here.
Oh.
Step back up.
I mean, Public Library Board.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
yep.
No, I had no issue with that. I was just saying that it wasn't in the
It's odd.
charter.
It's very odd, and it keeps coming up, and there's a lot of confusion.
Well, I'm going to tell you that library boards are big deals, and I was surprised that there was no library board in your charter, to be honest with you. So, all right. So then we now move. We'll go through this quickly because these are going to be moved to the historical provisions.
Can I ask a question before we move off of
Yeah.
boards and commissions?
Mm.
There's no reference in here, and I'm open for anybody's comments. There's no reference in here to the Oak Hills Park Authority. And it is a 9-member board appointed by the mayor confirmed by the city. I mean, by the council, sorry. And, yeah, there's no compensation, there's no pay. They actually have their own charter, as I think some of these others have also.
It's an authority. Oak
Right.
Hill's authority.
Right,
Yeah, there's no authorities listed, like the parking authority's not here, the housing authority.
okay.
Oak Hill's what?
Oak Hills Park Authority. The only reason I see it as important, I mean, other than my own past ties, but it is a revenue generator for the city and manages 60-some acres of land in the center part of the city.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it was created because what it is it's an authority created under the general statutes. And there's an ordinance, section 73-1 at SEC. That
Alright.
means it. So it's not a mandated, charter mandated body. You don't have a charter mandated Parks Commission for that matter, you know. It's
it's interesting.
yeah. No, in some ways, that's the way it should be. I mean, look, one of the things I might do in a section like this is say, there shall be, you know, boards and commit in this section. Let me show you again. In the section on 7-4, that, you know, you might expand it if you want to say that there shall be boards and commit. Where my mouse go? Oh, here it is. I'm sorry, I'm maneuvering a lot here, guys. So I apologize. You know, you could have a provision say that there shall be boards and commissions to address, you know, a wide range of issues affecting the city, from housing to fair rent to recreation to parks, etc. But it's kind of a given already. You already have that authority. So what's named here are the ones that are either created in the charter or are one second here. I'm just thinking something through as we're going here. Why? Is
I don't want to belabor it. I just wanted to throw it out
no,
there.
no, this forced me to come to, why is the Board of Estimate in here? I should put that in the elected officials. Because it's an elected, oh, no, they're appointed.
No, they're
I'm
not.
sorry,
Not.
I'm sorry,
I know, that's another town.
Next door is elected Board of Finance. I
I don't want
apologize.
to talk about them.
Yeah, no, I don't want to talk about them either. So that's the way it kind of goes. So, all right, are we okay?
Yeah, I just want to bring up throwing on the table and
All right. So the next section of the historical provisions, and this is where you see, and most of this is going to go into, it's either Article 11 or Article 12. Police Benefit Fund is here, which we don't think exists anymore. I'm going quickly through this. The Fireman's Benefit Fund, which we don't think exists. All this language is going to come out or go into this. I'm hoping that this will go into the repeal pile and not into the historical provisions section. And these are the sections that are being repealed that will not exist. This is the Tax Commissioners and Board of Relief. That doesn't exist, hasn't existed since probably the FDR years. Maybe
It's interesting in this section that the treasurer of the city shall be the treasurer of the fund.
Yep.
You know, once upon a time, it was an important position.
Yep. And so this is the Tax Commissioners and Board of Relief. They're going to go away. That's a repeal. We're also going to repeal the Planning Commission's being repealed because I don't know how they built a Planning and Zoning Commission while they had a Planning Commission in their charter, but they did. We're going to fix it now and take it out because they're obviously not following it. And they do allow for the consolidation. I guess that's how they did it.
Well, and it has been separate. It was consolidated, separate,
Yeah.
several times. The last-
I do have a note. That I want to raise with the administration regarding the master plan. I know it's not the master plan any longer that we deal with the plan of conservation and development. So I have a note to talk to them about whether we should put a mandate in the charter on that because it is an important provision that you may want to have in your constitution. But that's it. Those are the sections. That's board and commission. That's the board and commission discussion.
Okay, so I have a thought that we should invite at our next meeting any of the relevant sections or departments that we've just reviewed for any comment from them, as we have done with other departments. Especially one of the issues, going from 2 to 5 with both the fire and police commission. There's discussion throughout the community, and I think all of these people should have an opportunity to address this like the rest of the boards. So, any comments?
Yeah, and that's really the only one, right? Where I think there's any quote unquote substantive change. I mean, for me, the rest is really more of a cleanup
Yeah,
that we've gone
Yeah.
through.
So we invite them. If they're interested, they come, and if they're not, they don't.
who are we inviting?
Any of the boards that you have listed here.
Police and fire?
Yep.
To Commissioner Rosinga's point?
Yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
Yeah, I would just do
Right.
the,
because there are no real changes to any of the others.
yeah.
Well, the library,
The library,
any other ones. I think we should just do a blanket. If they want to come, they come, but they're all invited. And we are that, we've opened it to them like we have with all the other departments.
I might recommend at this point in the process, we have a meeting coming up on the 3rd at 7:30 in the evening. And then we have a meeting on the 11th. And we have a public hearing on the 17th. Now we can move the public hearing off a week to get another meeting in, but we need to have an approved charter that comes out of the meeting on the 11th if we're having a public hearing on the 17th to give the public some idea of what's going to be in this document. So my thought on it was we can invite them, but that's going to be the first time you're going to get to see the consolidated charter. And we're still going to need to do a lot of work. I mean, there may be a need for a Saturday session or additional session. I was looking at the possibility, you have a meeting on the 3rd. I was looking at the possibility of seeing if you can meet on the 4th. We may need an extra meeting in here. And if you want to do a meeting on the 4th, which is the day after your meeting, so it'll be 2 nights in a row, then we could invite police and fire to those meetings. My only concern at this point is we really have to get this document done at this point.
Mhm.
And
You
we,
you said we have a meeting on the 11th?
There's a meeting scheduled on the 11th of May. For some reason I have it on the 11th. It's Thursday, the 11th.
Not the 10th?
no, we didn't do that.
No, all I have is the 3rd and the 17th.
Well, we need a meeting between, unless we're going to approve this charter on the 3rd, we're not going to have anything to present to the meeting on the 17th, which is the public hearing. So there needs to be a meeting between the 3rd and the 17th.
So what if we do 3 Wednesdays in a row, the 3rd, the 10th, and the 17th? Is that amenable?
Well, I have the Stanford charter meeting on the 10th.
And I will not be in town on the 17th. I'll try to hook up with the Wi-Fi where I am. It's
Yeah,
pretty poor.
yeah, I'm in Singapore on the 17th, so I won't be there, but I could do the 10th or the 11th.
And we also had something on the 6th, Saturday, the 6th was discussed at some point.
That would work for me.
I have a tentative meeting, might have to stack meetings in the 2 cities. I have a Saturday meeting with the Stanford Commission on that date, but I have a co-counsel there and I might have him at that meeting if I need to schedule you guys the same day or schedule you, they start at 8:30, we schedule you at 12:30 or something. So you don't have to get up early in the morning for a meeting. So I've got
So you were looking at what the 3rd, 11th, and the 17th?
I was looking at possibly, well, the 3rd we have scheduled. And I apologize for the time change in that I had one of my commissions schedule a meeting without talking to me, and it's their document, they're approving the document that night. So that's a pretty critical meeting. That's next Wednesday.
And that's 7:30.
So we're going to start at 7:30 next Wednesday. And then I was going to recommend a meeting the night after that, if we could, the 4th. If that's possible, to get another full meeting in there. But we definitely probably need another meeting before the 17th.
You were not available on the 10th, you've said, right?
The 10th, I have, it's a Wednesday night. Stanford is scheduled that night.
And Saturday, the 6th, does that work for any other commissioners?
It worked for me. I could do that.
Okay, well, Tyler can't. What about Tuesday, the 9th?
I think I'm okay.
Yeah, so am I.
I can do that. I have a public hearing in New Haven that starts at 6, but they don't really need me for their public hearing. So, if we start at, start at 7 or 7:30.
The 9th?
Tyler?
I have to double check my work calendar.
Yeah, okay.
This is a tough time. I have a bunch of meetings.
Yeah. Well, that seems to be the best unless we do the Saturday, the 6th. And I didn't get any input back from the commissioners.
I can do the 6th. then.
Okay, anybody else?
I can do the 6th and the 9th after 7:30 though, after 7.
Okay,
Yeah, I can do the 9th.
that's Rick.
Mike,
Who was
That
saying
was Micah.
Michael, yeah.
And Rick is not with us right now.
No, he's
All
not.
right, so why don't we do the 9th?
All right, we're set for the 9th,
At what time?
7:30.
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay, is that okay?
Yep.
All right.
Yes.
And why is the 9th at 7:30, not 6:30? Is there a
Because
reason?
I have a 6 o'clock
Yeah.
public hearing in New
Gotcha.
Haven.
I got you. That's all I need to do here.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, good.
So the 3rd is a 7:30 meeting, the 9th is a 7:30 meeting.
Yeah.
And then we're looking to throw a meeting in on the 6th, that's
So it's
Saturday.
gonna be, no, we're not
No,
gonna.
we're not going to do the 6th.
Saturday. We're
Okay.
gonna do the, Tuesday, the 9th.
Do the 9th, okay. Now, okay, never mind.
Okay,
I think we may need to look at trying to do another meeting somewhere in there, but our public hearing is on the 17th. Our final meeting is the 24th. We're reporting to council the following week, so I don't know, maybe we shift a few things around there. But
We're
let's see
gonna
how it
have-
goes. Let's see how it goes.
all right, every week in May, we're gonna be meeting.
Oh, no, this is critical time. So
Well, yes, so you're saying, yes, we will be meeting every week in May.
it looks that way.
No. No. Okay, there was one thing that came up last week in the public hearing that I thought was of interest to discuss. And that was someone mentioned the environmental issues, that we have something in the charter to
Mhm.
encourage our government to be
Sure.
cognizant of those needs. Have you had any experience, Steve, with that being in any referenced in any charter?
Well, there are commissions that address those issues and a lot of charters and there are charters that mandate it. Let's take a look here. I thought we just addressed the issue of, there is a commission that deals with conservation and, 1 second. Yeah, the Conservation Commission. The Conservation Commission is stated here.
But I'm thinking in terms of broader, that any construction that we do in Department of Public Works or school building, that is a conscious effort with the city.
Well,
Well, the city seems to be attacking some of those issues with ordinances, so I don't know, do we need?
I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting conversation last week, I guess it was.
no, resiliency, those are huge issues. And your charter, again, is a 1913 charter that doesn't really look at those issues. Maybe when we get to the departments in a few moments, when we get to the operations department, which deals with public works and infrastructure, we might be able to throw some language in there that addresses the issue. So I'm not, it's awfully late in the process, but the public speaks, and it's useful to get their input on these things. I'm just trying to take a look in that section on operations. And operations functions generally, policies, the infrastructural needs of the city. Yeah, we might be able to, under operations functions, which is a replacement for public works, throw issues and programs pertaining to the operations, infrastructure, resiliency, environmental impacts, or something like that in that kind of section, if you want.
Well, I'd like us to discuss it. We could do it at our next meeting.
Well,
I know.
I was going to bring it up. Are we quitting here, guys? I was going to bring up
what's
Article 8
next?
right now.
Okay, what's next?
I was going to do Article 8, which is departments, which is where
Okay.
this might come up. Because I think we need to at least go through this quickly. You just got it today, so I'm not going to. So maybe I'll run through it.
It's not on our agenda.
No,
Hold on. It should have been on the agenda.
It's not in the packet then?
I sent it out to everybody. Let me see the
yeah, but it's not on the agenda that was
Yeah,
kind of.
it came.
Article 8 is
today.
not on the agenda.
No, it's not, and it came today.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's on the agenda.
Yeah, discussion articles 7 and 8, boards
Yeah.
and commissions and
Yeah,
departments.
I didn't get you the document until today, but I definitely put it on the agenda. That I do.
Roman numeral 5.
So I can run through it
Okay.
quickly.
Sorry, thank you for the correction. Okay,
Let me run through it quickly, just to give you a sense of how the chapter works. And it won't be that long, actually, because it's really
Okay,
pulled
let's
down.
go.
Yep.
Rock and roll.
All right. So Article 8-1 deals with the powers and duties of departments. And you're going to see a term in here called divisions. And what I've tried to do is I reverse engineered the charter to address the structure that you have today, where you have division chiefs and you have departments, and this kind of goes through and discusses the structure. And again, these are all, some of these are new sections here in the beginning. Item number 2, let's see what number 2 is. Yeah, powers and duties, intent to express, to allow the mayor and the council to organize the government in order to achieve a balance, and the delineation of departmental categories is to mandate services and functions, not necessarily the structure. The structure is set forth in the charter at this point in time. If I had my druthers in most communities, and maybe this will take place at the next charter revision, I like to move departments out of the charter almost completely and mandate, you'll see there's a little bit of that in here, and just mandate them to be created by ordinance. And you'll also see that we have pretty facile provisions for the creation of departments and the reorganization of departments. So these divisions and departments, this is current language, similar to the current language in the charter. I'm going to walk you through it quickly. I've yellowed this section because I'm trying to determine whether this is true. I think it is. I think I got it from the ordinance. The executive leaders of each division established by ordinance shall be subject to the provisions of the charter that apply to division chiefs and shall serve coterminously with the term of the appointing mayor, et cetera, unless otherwise provided by the statutes of this charter or collective bargaining agreement, if that were applicable. And I've got to check that to make sure that is the practice. I believe it is the practice. I think that's right, taken right from the ordinance that created the divisions. This reorganization language, I'm going to run you through it quickly because I'm going to ask you to really look at this in some detail over the next week before the next meeting. This section 3 is new. This is reorganization. You have this kind of in your charter. In some ways, you had it where there was the ability, is specific to planning and zoning. You already had this provision in your charter for that function. This simply mandates it for all departments. And the question is whether it should be by a majority vote or a 2/3 vote. Somebody has raised that issue. Whether it should be easy to create new departments or difficult to create new departments. So that will be an issue that we should probably take a look at. Yeah, in fact, there's a conflict within this language because here it says 2/3. This has been raised and wasn't fully cleaned up, but that's the section on reorganization. And again, that principle is this: you want to establish a mandate, you want to establish services that need to be provided to the public, but you don't want to lock yourself into a structure in 1913 and still operate it in 2023, or you don't want to do it in 2023 and still have it in effect in 2113. Which is kind of a strange way of looking at it because most of us will probably not be here for that. So we won't get blamed, at least. And then these are the appointment procedures. It lays out how they're appointed solely by the mayor, chief of staff, and the corporation council. This is new. The corporation council will serve coterminously with the mayor and may be removed in the sole discretion of the mayor. Everybody was under the impression that already was the rule, but the rule is that the corporation council gets a 2-year term. So moving forward, the corporation council will be in the charter in the way that everybody thought he or she was. Then these are the positions that are confirmed by the appointed by the mayor, confirmed by the mayor. And these are like the division chiefs, basically, and the chief financial officer are those big appointments. Then you'll see the positions that are appointed by the mayor and subject to some of them are to a 4-year term. I'm going to fix that because they may not all have 4-year terms. The controller, the purchasing agent, the tax collector, the assistant tax collector, the tax assessor, the assistant tax assessors, they're all currently in the charter. And then I've added to the charter those that are in the same position, but are only covered by ordinance. So I wanted to make sure that if you want to preserve the mayor as the appointing authority and the council as the approving authority, it should be in the charter. So that adds the health director, the deputy and assistant corp counsels and special counsel, building official, director of code enforcement, and the municipal historian. Those are all currently in your ordinances with 4-year terms. I'm sorry, appointed by the mayor and approved by the council.
Do we have a municipal historian?
Well, I'll find out, but it's in the ordinances.
I don't believe we currently do.
They chair this commission.
There's a historical commission.
Well, I'll talk to the city hall. There's an ordinance, and when
Yeah,
I do.
I know, but I don't think we have one anymore.
All right. Then we can leave it out, or we can mandate it, and they can then hire one. Then you have boards and commissions that appoint these two entities. We also probably should put the council in here for their appointment of the Board of Ethics. And make that a constitutional standard. And then we have removal, this is, I think, current language in the charter.
When you go back up to B, the fire chief, it should be consistent with the language, the Board of Police Commissioners and the
Well, it's actually the,
Fire board, it's not the fire board, it's.
well, it is the fire board in the charter, but
Well,
police commit, no, I've changed it in the other section. It didn't change it here. Police commission and fire commission. Then there's the removal provision, which has been in the charter. Yep, it's charter. It's a very, it's not a robust provision, but it's, you know, it's strong enough. This is a section that I'm having some discussion with the city about whether we want to have this standard in here for job qualifications. I think it's language I have recommended elsewhere and would recommend it here. Compensation is through the budget unless otherwise required by General Assembly or personnel civil service rules and collective bargaining or contract, if there's a contract
a
employee.
lot of them are by ordinance, they're under the ordinance.
Well, that's what it says, set by ordinance or budget. Yeah. So it could be set in a lot of different ways. I mean, some of the salaries are set, they get increases in the budget. So that's why I have the budget in there. So this is the issue that was in the confusion in the minutes, the bond requirements. I think these will hopefully be out of here by the time we meet next week. I don't think that these provisions really are used or apply any longer. Full-time positions, I think they're full-time, but I have a question out to make sure they are all full-time.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
You think there's some department heads that are not full-time?
No, I think they're all full-time.
Yeah, I think they are too. And they shouldn't be engaging in any business or other office, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, whatever, and not be involved. This is like an ethics standard. This is this is language that, let me see, is this my language, my proposed language? I'm taking a look here. Or, one second, full-time, footnote 36. Nope, this is language that's in here. So, yeah, this language is in here. Then there's delivery. This is an important provision. I think it may be in your charter already. 38 is, yeah, it's in the current charter. Really important language that basically says you got to make sure your records go to the successors. A lot of city halls treat the papers in their offices
Yeah,
like they're personal, and they're not. They're governed by state law.
and they take
And-
them home in their boxes.
Yeah, and that's just not acceptable.
Next to their.
as- They bring them back to their states in Florida. But then this is just the oath of office, which is in here now. Position titles are the titles that they have now, but the functions cannot be altered, so that they need, they may have new titles and they may be reorganized. But again, the concept of having the fiduciary function, the program functions, the fiduciary obligations cannot be altered by ordinance. So people need to be mindful that it requires Corporation Council's opinion, and that brings us to the Corp Council. The charter is very, very vague. It just says there'd be a law department and Corp Council the administrative head. There's a typo, something that got kicked around a little bit.
I thought
The,
there was a section that said that they had the power to hire additional outside counsel. The Corporation Council had the power to hire outside counsel for specific needs. I thought I read that someplace. I know
That's in the ordinances,
it's an ordinance, okay.
Yeah, so yeah, again, I don't think we have time at this stage in the process to really expand upon that, but there's things I would do as a former Corp Counsel. Finance, the finance function has been considerably truncated. We've looked at that very carefully, and you know, a lot of the broad provisions that are in the current charter are here, they remain here. And the still responsible accounts and forms, financial reports, governance. And this is again kind of a cooperation clause with teeth that basically these guys have the authority to ask any department head to come back and give you information. So if everybody's not cooperating, this is the authority where these folks have the ability to do it. Several people have said, do we really need this? My recommendation is that you keep it. This is in your current charter. I would keep it, but it's highlighted because people have raised some questions. Council has the ability to delegate further powers to the CFO and other budgetary and governmental functions, not inconsistent with the other provisions of this charter. Then it creates the CFO position. Talks about the departments that report to the CFO. This is again in the current time. 2 years from now, if you're doing this, a year from now, 3 years from now, whenever you're going to do interim revision, you might strip this down even further, because my hope would be that you'll have ordinances that really explain all this and make it very clear, and that these chapters basically say what are the basic functions. Like there's an audit function, you need to do an audit. There's periodic reporting requirements as shall be set forth by ordinance. So I think that some of these provisions could be stripped down a little more. The controller, at the recommendation of the finance people, I've stripped down quite a bit. There's a lot of very almost job description type provisions in the current charter. I'm moving them in the interim to the special act, the historical provisions section, so they're not going away technically, but they will once this happens. This is the first of the historical sunset provisions. So the powers and duties of the controller are set forth in Article 12, whatever the section is going to be called. They remain in full force and effect until replaced by an ordinance. Upon the effective date of that ordinance, the charter, that section shall be null and void and removed by the charter unless the Corporation Council, spelled wrong, the Corporation Council determines in writing that any provision should remain intact. So that if a section is not addressed, it will remain in the charter. And unless the intent of the ordinance is to remove it, and they have a reason to remove it, it will be gone. So all the
So why should the Corporation Council have that power by himself, herself, themselves?
Well, the council takes the action. Somebody needs to make a legal determination that their action has in fact complied with the charter. This is the constitutional document. The Corporation Council is the attorney for the city. And so I've always established the Corp Council as the authority. Now you can have a situation where you have a political Corporation Council and the city council is doing something the mayor doesn't like. That could be a problem. But I'm not sure how else I would do it.
Well, the mayor appoints the Corporation Council, so there shouldn't be that much of a difference of opinion.
Well, there'd be a difference of opinion between the mayor who appoints the Corporation Council and the mayor and the council, the city council. That's the concern that one would have, but I don't know any other way around it. What are you going to do? Hire a lawyer? Who knows who that lawyer is? The Corp Council is at least an officer of the municipality. Give it some thought. That's the standard that I've always used. If you could think, you're not going to go to court. Determination, of course, they're not going to rule on stuff like this. That's not a place to go. So I was trying to come up with a clean, effective, easy way of resolving it.
Okay.
And that was the rationale. Similarly, the purchasing agent, a lot of the provisions are going away, although I do have more detail in here because I think purchasing should have some strict constitutional standards regarding competition and some of those types of things. Also, I've been putting provisions in charters that require the cities, the boards of ed, the city purchase agent to work with them to take advantage of incentives, cooperation agreements, consortiums that are available to boards and commissions. There's a lot of opportunity the boards and commission, or the boards of education have that other departments don't have, and that I put these provisions in here to encourage boards of education to use purchasing agents, but the purchasing agent has to be aware of the curriculum and other scheduling requirements of the board. So it's a provision that is respectful of the time frame that the board has to deal with their budget and what they have to do during the course of the year. And again, there's a historical transition and sunset provision. I think 65 is already in the charter, and 66, I'm going to fix it a little bit to combine them, talks about what the central purchasing system is all about. I have them looking at, the administration is looking at this one. I wanted to throw it in, so it wasn't a last minute add. This basically says you need a purchasing system that is competitive, fair, plays by the rules, and that really does operate at the highest level in accordance with standards established by some of the large purchasing organizations, National Institute of Government Purchasing, National Association of State Purchasing Officials, the Model Procurement Code, and ordinances, and the American Bar Association. They all have standards on this, and I've thrown them into the charter. They're not overly, they are broad. They're not the actual ordinance, but they do lay out what should be in a good purchasing ordinance. I've worked on that. And then that a purchasing ordinance should be looked at least every 2 years. This is an area where cities can get into trouble. This is where liability can be created, and you really need to make sure that your processes are fair and that that they're looked at and that they're up to date, so that you can make the best purchases possible for the community. The tax collector section, I took a lot of the ancient provisions and put them into the back of the document to the historical provisions, the sunset provisions, because I think the tax collector basically operates under state law. It doesn't really use the provisions in the current charter. There's a provision in the tax collector section and the assessor section on disability or inability to perform duties. I think we addressed that issue earlier. I'm probably going to move that and combine it here. And the tax collector and the assessor, like all other city officials, will be, the same rules will apply to them that apply to all other officials with regard to their disabilities or ability to work or not work. I'm going to double check and make sure that there's a place for it. If not, I will leave it. I don't think it's a bad thing to have. And their duties, the assessors' duties, are prescribed by the state statutes. They're not called the tax commissioner any longer. Department of Revenue Services, I'll fix that. Then we have the category of economic and community development service functions. I'm sure Tyler will rewrite this section. And there's a chief right now. What these, it just deals very broadly. And Tyler, you may want to look at it, see if there's anything else that could be added to the broad brush in subsection A. And we'll get rid of that second period. And then the chief of economic and community development is laid out here. Follows some of the terms of the ordinance. You don't see a transition provision because this is new. This didn't exist before. The human resources and personnel functions are laid out. Many of these are in the charter now, I think. No, are these new? Yeah, some of them new. And again, I think you will, nope, there's no, I guess it was pretty not a lot of stuff in that section. Operations, this is public works, a lot of changes in this section. The chief operating officer is the head of that, is the division chief, tells you the departments that are under, reporting requirements, and this does have historical sections. So you see, this is the model for what we're looking at. You lay out either the departments or the functions. if I took it one step further, I'd lay functions. Right now, it's framed as departments, so I was reverse engineering, and I didn't think we should be making radical change. But I think this takes you closer to where a charter should be, that these are the functions that you need to have a government that runs. And this is a great section because a lot of this is new. Then
What,
community,
there was
Yep.
one, can you go just up, let me see, I got it, I'm looking for, human resources and personnel.
here it is.
So in this, in B, the divisions are not spelled out like the other chiefs.
Because I don't think there's any departments under them.
Yeah, I believe there are.
What are they?
Well, I knew you were gonna ask.
No, but I took this right.
No,
from the
I'm
ordinance.
trying to remember.
If there are, I'll put them in, but I think
Yeah.
I took this right from the ordinance. That's where I got them for the others.
I know the library is under this division and,
Well, every department's under human resources.
oh no. I have to check. I
Right,
don't know.
if you don't mind, yeah, every department is under human resources, so, and personnel. So there's no, we're not gonna list all the departments because they don't report to them, but everybody's under their jurisdiction because the policies of the Human Resources Department.
Yeah, but the library reports to the chief for budget and other issues.
Really?
Mhm.
Well, that's not in the ordinances. See if we want to put that, talk to somebody, see if we want to
check
put it
it
in the
out.
charter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And operations, I did already. Community services, I was just getting to. Again, I think a lot of this is new. And then we get to community
I'm sorry,
services.
I was talking community services.
Community services.
Yeah.
And now this is old language dealing with special meeting of electors of the tax districts for this is library. This is for the person, for the student for the
Mhm.
library maintained in the district.
Right.
So I don't know whether this has to go to the taxing district section, or is this not used at all? I don't know the answer. What do you think? Anybody?
I don't think it applies. I think you have to ask Henry. I don't think the other two libraries get any money from the city. I think
Right.
they just get it from the districts, but I'm not positive.
All right. Yeah, it sounds like they have a meeting. Yes, the electors of those districts raise the money. So I think this has to go into their section. And then the Board of Estimate lays a tax to defray the expenses.
Of the other, of two libraries.
No, it's of the district, it says, of the,
I'm telling you what happens. I'm not saying what it says here because
yeah, I got you. That I know. So I just want to, I have to find out where this goes in the charter. We have to move it somewhere else. Public safety, I didn't do a lot of changes in this section. I'm questioning whether this language should be in the police shall have the power of constables of towns in the apprehension and arrest of criminals and the service of process within limits of the city. I don't think the police chief needs that power. It's not adding anything to the chief's power. We're leaving this provision in here, I think. Take a look at it. Duty of police as to arrest without warrant. It's kind of an ancient provision. I do have a question as to whether this should remain in here or not, but it's there. And then here we go again. Taxation to defray expenses. This is for the fifth taxing district. I don't know if this still applies. And if it does, I'll just move it into the fifth taxing district language at the back of the charter.
it says here it references the volunteer divisions and the fire department.
That's in the next section. Yes, yeah. So is that?
Oh, it has the six, you have it here that we talked about before. Under B, the yellow, the jurisdiction of the Norwalk Fire Department shall extend to the city.
Is that Rowayton? Is that Rowayton?
To the 6th taxing district.
Is that Rowayton?
Yes,
Then it's taken care of. I had a question about that, so
Yeah.
I can take the yellow off of that.
yes, that's what we were talking about previously.
Do I need to say Rowayton?
No. It's the 6th taxing district, I
So
believe, but you might want to check it with legal.
I will double check it. Again, the fire board, I haven't done the run. I will be changing everything to the fire commission. And again, here we go, the fire department, this is more stuff dealing with the taxing districts, all the inhabitants and the real and personal property within the limits of the 5th taxing district. Now that is Rowayton again, or with the exception of the 6th, the 6th, okay, the 6th. All right, shall be liable to taxation to defray the expenses of the Norwalk Fire Department,
Right,
appropriation to cover the operation of the city. So everybody but Rowayton, the 6th district,
yes.
does it. Okay, cool.
Yes.
So that should stay.
But then there's a provision in 5 that if they decide not to be volunteer, they would be incorporated into the full city. And number 5,
All right,
termination.
so these things should remain.
I think so.
All right, good. No, you're explaining something I didn't understand. That's why I had them in
Yeah.
yellow.
Mhm. I didn't realize that number 5 was in there. That's good.
Good, so that's taken care of. We don't. All right, now these are the sections that are going to come out. So that's your department section. It's not that long. It's down to 21 pages or so. It's about half the size of what it is today. There's 39 pages in this document. So a lot of the sections that are being repealed. All these sections are being repealed.
There's
This
that
is
asking, you got a typo there.
where?
Well, it was the word asking, acting department. It went so fast, I missed it. It's highlighted. I just saw it again.
You did.
Yeah, well, anyway, my eyes are getting tired, so.
We're almost done.
Well, not a big deal.
All right, especially if it's in the section that's being repealed. I'm not going to worry about it. Like, you'll see, I didn't do his or her here, by the way. I've done gender runs on most of my stuff. You'll see some SEDs in this section. These are going away. I did not want to waste any time making them user friendly because they're not going to be used. Park department in lieu of parking authority, that's going away. All the stuff in the Department of Public Works is probably going away or may go into the historical provisions. I don't think most of these provisions are utilized from what I have been told. I'm doing final checks on that. The Department of Social Services Welfare hasn't existed for 25 years. That's going away. It's been in the charter all this time. And then there's the historical provisions. These are the ones that are staying. Remember I described
Yep.
the controller. These are all the very, very specific functions. There's this one here that I have to look at a little carefully because it deals with districts that are not under the supervision of district commissioners. I don't know what on earth, I'm trying to find out what that means.
Yeah,
from the
well,
people.
it means it's not under the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 6th districts. They have commissioners.
Okay, so I may have to keep this language alive in the body of the document since it sets up a relationship
Yeah.
with the districts. I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to,
I think you need it, but well, you know.
yeah, no, I think I do. That's why that's why I noted it. I do think I need it. So, okay, so back there. Again, the controller, then the purchasing agent provisions. You have a lot of these provisions that are covered by the current ordinance. So, which is also covered by the broad principles included. Here's all the tax collector responsibilities that are in the charter. Look at this. But I don't think that they follow one word. I think they follow the statutes. I'm again, these are not going away. So these are going to go into the historical provisions of the charter. So if we find that the tax collector does do those things, they're going to stay. And these are the public works and operations provisions that should be addressed by ordinance. And there's just an awful lot in here that deal with these things. So that's how it's going to work. That's the first run.
Okay,
And so next week, my plan is to have in front of you the whole charter. I'll try to get it out to you before the meeting. I'm integrating as we speak. And hopefully tomorrow the integration will be done. I want to do a few runs through on edits, and then I'll send it to Angela to correct everything I've done. And and I'm, and I have other people in the city reviewing it. It's a very big job. And as I've indicated, I'm going to be reviewing this throughout the process until the final vote by the council. We're going to be looking at this. I mean, I'm going to say it right to the council the first night. Tell me the mistakes you're finding, because we're looking for them. We want to make sure this is clean in the end. It's a huge job to do what we're doing, and almost unprecedented. This is the closest I've come to writing one from scratch. It's not from scratch. That's one of the difficulties, is I'm dealing with ancient language and trying to convert it, but we weren't trying to change your form of government, and we didn't want to miss anything. And that's the real key. Okay,
a nice explanation.
I'll stop speaking.
No, I'm seriously.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it's very clear. And if we could remember it, you could articulate it again.
All right, maybe I'll write a song about it.
Okay.
Goes like this.
It goes like this. Carl will give you the melody. Come on.
Okay, so anything else anybody wishes to bring up? I see no hands up okay, so a motion to adjourn is in order.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay.
See you next week.
Thank you, guys.
Good night,
So,
everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good
See you
night.
next week.
Yep.
Bye-bye.